Hey, shalom, 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 lakam, which is peace unto you all. Hi, rabtawab la'atam za'akyakam yawam manarachagadol, Charlotte, which is good evening. This is your brother Yawan from the GMS camp in Charlotte. Nachamatam kaya, hamalakwat hashemayim kwara, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Call layim la abnao Yahweh bahasham Yahweh shai. Bahasham rocha hakwadash wa mashana la zakwaniyim na wa malakim shor rocha gadol, which is all praises to our Father Yahweh, which means he exists. Bahasham, in the name Yahweh Shai delivers, and double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. So today we're going into Hadabar Shah Hayawan, which is the word of the day. All right, and the word is going to be AhRaTaza, which means the earth. All right, and which when we break this word down, it says Ah, which is in the beginning. You got the Ra, which is Ra'ash, the head of man. All right, then you got Taza, which is to be straight, right, stiff, and firm. So we're gonna go into each of these. So that it says, this is Genesis Zabara Asheth. This is Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, in the beginning, the powers created the heaven and the earth. All right, so the earth was one of the first creations. All right, so that's what the stands for, the first or in the beginning. All right, then you got Ra'ash. You see, because when you ultimately go into words that are related to AhRaTaza or Rataza, it goes into earthen material, the element or the elements that comprise of what the creation of earth is called, So we'll go into that because Ra'ash goes into the head of man, you see, but then the head of man also goes into an actual man as well, because men in the ancient world, they would take tablets of earthen material and write on them to pass on messages. All right, and then we'll get that word for Taza, which goes into Tazad, which is the side or righteous man on his side. It also goes into Tazadak for righteous. All right, this is Judges 5 and 11. Let me get the word for righteous acts. All right. And that word, it says to be just, to be righteous, to have a just cause. All right, we'll skip down. And it says to be right, straight, IQ, as of a straight way. To be stiff, rigid. When you think about the earth, it's stiff and rigid. If you go and you pick up, some earthen material, it's going to be firm. All right, so when we ultimately go into this word, it says Rataza, and it says broken pieces of earthen material to write on as tablets. All right, and I'm going to actually get a example of that. Zashamwath, this is Exodus chapter 32, and we'll get verse 15 just for an example. And it says, and Mashah turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides, on the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of the Most High, and the writing was the writing of the Most High, graven upon the tables. All right, and ultimately, in the ancient world, men will write on tablets, tablets of earthen material. You see, so I actually want to go back to this because when we talk about the earth, all right, what we'll see is, the words for the earth don't really change, So to illustrate that, let's get an example. So when we go into words like terror, that's nothing more than in the actual Hebrew word AhRaTaza right here. AhRaTaza, what they did was they took the the Ra, while they took the T from the Taza, all right, and they put A-R-T. All right, and what that created was really what that would be is A-R. They doubled the R, they put an E right there in the T, and they just reversed it, and that became terror. Earth is nothing more than, all right, putting the E and the H, and then the middle 2 letters are going to be A-R-T. And again, it goes back to AhRaTaza. All right, same thing with terrain, which means that goes into all earth, or it goes into earthen, something that can handle, like when you say all terrain tires, it can take all types of earth. When terrain is referring to what types of terrain is, on this layout, what type of earth are you going to run into? That's essentially what terrain goes into. So essentially with terrain, it's the same thing. It's just the T-R-R-A or T-E-R-R-A. And again, it goes back to the A-R-T, which is the reversal. But then we have terracotta, which goes into earthen, to earth cooked. You see, because terracotta is just nothing more than, essentially, the earth cooked, and like an artistic form. You got like a lot of terracotta, terracotta things or art made out of terracotta. So when we have examples in the scriptures like AhRaTaza, like I'll get this precept. This is 2nd Esdras, chapter 13, and we'll get verse 40, and it says, all right, and it says, those are the 10 tribes, verse 40. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salamander the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them away over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, which those 10 tribes was talking about the northern kingdom, you see, because Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were still over in the Holy Land. And it says, but they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into another country, into a further country, where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they enter into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. You see, because essentially, the Lord had it to where, in the Atlantic Ocean, it's a lot of storms and stuff like that, so that's essentially going into that, the flood, it's a lot of storms and things that happen. The Lord made it to where, the northern kingdom was able to get over to the Americas, because you had Gad, you had Reuben, all right, and you had, the rest of the northern kingdom over in the Americas. You see, but it says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called AhRaTaza. You see, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the same country that Malak Shalamah, King Solomon sent the Phoenicians, if I'm not mistaken, over here, because it took the Phoenician sailors like a year and a half to get to the Americas and then to go back. So I'm gonna run that back. It says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called AhRaTaza. You see, so when we break that down, when we go into AhRaTaza, all right, that just goes into another land. All right, and I actually got a precept that's going into that, because it says where they got the ARS from the AhRaTaza. It goes back into, they got the all right, for AhRaTaza. Really, the ARS part, that goes back to the the Ra, and then the T from the Taza. So they really, that I believe that's in Greek. AhRaTaza, I believe that's in Greek. But AhRaTaza, the ARS part, goes back to AhRaTaza, which means earth. And then the rest of it, Salak, I'm gonna spell it out. Really, the rest of it, the Areth part, AhRaTaza, all right, that really goes back to this right here. That really goes back to, I'm gonna get this real fast. This is Zadabariam. This is Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 25. And it says, I'm gonna go down to verse 28. I'll just skip straight to the point. It says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against his land. So like, I'm going to read it from 25. It says, then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord, power of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. All right, because the Lord essentially, brought the children of Israel. The Lord delivered us from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. So it says, for they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods whom they knew not, and whom he had not given unto them. You see, because Jake was going off, Jake was tapping into the ideologies of the heathen. Verse 27, it says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book. And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. Because when Jake was going off, the Lord essentially take Jake out of the land, you know. So I'm gonna get this word for another land, you see, because that's essentially where AhRaTaza comes from. So when we look at this, AhRaTaza will be right here, the land, AhRaTaza. You see, but another, because when we go back and we see what AhRaTaza means, all right, it tells us right here. It says, and so they came, so came they into another land. All right, AhRaTaza, like in this verse right here, is just another land. So when we say AhRaTaza in verse 45, the reth part, all right, again, the reth part again goes into the ARS goes into AhRaTaza, the Areth, Arsarat, Arsaret. The Areth part goes into AhRaT. You see? So going back to this right here, it says it right here, it says another land. AhRaTaza AhRaT. AhRaTaza AhRaT, which means another. It comes from the Hebrew word ahar. You see, but they got the ta again from the AhRaT. You know, so AhRaTaza AhRaT going into AhRaTaza, you know, the Americas. You see, so just want to get a couple examples, you know, of going into the word AhRaTaza, you know, which means earth. You see, we see it in terracotta, you know, earth, terrain, you know, all terrain tires. All right, we see it in words of as such, you know, because Edenics, when you actually type in Edenics right here, it's a lot. So yes, it's not looking it up, but when you type in, when you go to let's look up Edenics, ultimately it goes into the study of words because everything goes back to the Hebrew. So let's get that. This is Zabara Ashit Genesis chapter 11 and verse 1. It says, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there, you see, because the whole earth spoke Hebrew. It says, and they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, going back to Halashwan Kwadash. And this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. You see, it says, go to, let us go down, talking about the powers. You know, the Lord Yahweh, you know, dispatch, you know, the Alahayim, you see, to essentially, you know, confound the speech. All right, so it says, and when you go into the word for confound, all right, it's going to go into balal. And balal essentially goes into, it says mix, mingle, confuse, and it says to overflow, to mix, to fodder. So essentially going into to water down, you see, because and going down to right here, it says to be poured over. You see, because ultimately when you look at all forms of language, everything is just nothing more than a broken form of Hebrew, whether it be German, whether it be French, whether it be Spanish. All right, you can find examples in English, Spanish, French, anything. You know, so it says, the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babal, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. You see, so essentially the whole, all the earth had one speech, one language, and that language was Halashwan Kwadash, which is the same. It's synonymous with Ibarya, our Hebrew, you know. It's the language we know today as Hebrew, you know. So I just want to go into, Hadabar Shal Hayawam, you know, a word of the day. AhRaTaza Banayapa, Lord's will, that was a beautiful edification through the Spirit. Wa AhRaTaza Atam Yashlay Latawab, Lord's will. You all have a good night. Wa Shalom Lakam, which is peace unto you all. Hey, Shalom, Shalom.